Hello and welcome to another What Sold on eBay video, postcard edition. I decided with a lot of the response from last video that I did on postcards, we're going to do this maybe once a month. We'll do a postcard video. I don't sell enough postcards, but then again, I haven't been listing like I was listing a few months ago. So, hopefully we'll get right back into it and we'll have more postcards to show. And I also decided I'm going to add photos in here too because photos is almost like a parallel category to sell in, also especially vintage photos. And so hopefully we'll touch on postcards and we'll touch on photos just like this photo here. If you're not subscribed to the channel, definitely go down there, click the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications so you get notified anytime one of these videos comes out. So let's get right into it. Without further ado, the first item we actually have is a photo. This is of Clark Gable. Yes, frankly, dear, I don't give a damn, Gone with the Wind. And this photo collection actually came with postcards. And so I thought it was really interesting to find this photo. I thought this so by the way, this sold for $20 with a buy it now, or actually a best offer. I had this photo for, geez, almost a year listed, had lots of watchers, and I think I had it first listed at like $200, and I just brought it down because it's a famous person and there's a little bit of like provenance with this particular photo. I guess when I did my research, it was like an indie film he was doing with one of these ranchers, or there was some. It was really interesting actually, the doing the research on this particular photo. But anyways, there he is in his cigarette splendor. And yeah, like I said, this sold for $20, worth probably way more than that. And anytime you see like photographs of famous people, now there are reproductions, and that's a whole other video in itself. And I don't want to like spend the rest of the time of this video saying like what to look out for because people in the 80s and the 90s, made copies of photos and they look kind of like older photos, but they're not. I I don't want to go into that, but anyways, definitely look out for celebrities in photos. Some of them are worth crazy, crazy, crazy money. Next up is this real photo postcard, and for those that don't know what real photo postcard is, basically like an old vintage black and white photograph. It's on photograph paper and it's stamped. My scanner actually shows very light wording on this thing, and I've messed with the settings. And by the way, if you don't have if you really want to get into photographs and postcards, I highly suggest getting an Epson scanner that you just feed the postcards right into the top and it just spits them right out, and it saves to a USB disk or your computer. Then you put it on a USB disk, or you can just do it from your computer. I have actually a really weird setup. And if you want to see that video, just leave a comment below, and if I get enough comments, I might make a video on how I do my process. And it's kind of it's like Popeye's Postcards does his, but it's got a little spin because what was cool about studying under him was taking his ideas of how he does it and then doing it how I need to do it, because everyone's going to be different how they do their postcards. Anyways, this is a real photo postcard of Idaho Springs, Colorado. Sanborn is basically the type of the photographer here. You can see that in the corner there. Sanborn is one of the, a pretty good, I don't want to say Bolo brand. It's such weird. It's like the artist or the photographer. Sanborn has done a lot of really good ones. And you can basically search. So that's definitely a keyword. Some tips that I do is I always put like the city and the state abbreviated, because you can actually on eBay put the state's category. And let's see if I can can see that here without messing something up. No, I guess I can't see the category. Maybe I'm looking somewhere wrong. But anyways, in eBay, you can actually put the category of the city. And so usually I do that through, the software that I have. And I can get into that another thing, because I do use listing software for the postcards because it makes it a lot easier. And like I said, I'm sorry, I'm already ranting and talking about stuff that's not relevant to what you're seeing here. But the process is very interesting, and how These things get scanned and listed and uploaded, and it's kind of interesting. But keywords are definitely something that you shouldn't skimp on with postcards. That sold for $6.25. Next up is this another vintage real photo postcard, another Idaho Springs. Usually when you buy collections, usually come um, usually they'll come like packed in like, oh, all Florida or all California. And that is not all the time, but sometimes when you buy these collections, you get a stack of particular states. I got a huge stack of Colorado real photo postcards, and you can see they're all listed here. I sold this at a 75% sale, and I will say, I always price my postcards high, and then I kind of drop them down over the months or the weeks that I have them, and then eventually they find a price point because um, what's crazy about postcards, though there's like tons of them on eBay, there's sometimes that price discovery is just not there, and some of them are unique, and it's really hard to like say how much is this worth. So you kind of have to, when you do this enough, guess, what the price that you think is. And I usually price high. It's the high-low theory. Anyone that's been on the channel for long enough knows my high-low theory. Um, and you just go from there, and you can also work your way down. But I do have like 500 postcards in, and I know that's not a lot in the eBay store right now. And every once in a while, I'll do like a 50% off sale or a 75% off sale or something crazy like that, just to clear out some of the stuff that I have. Because sometimes people want to pay $8.75 just like this. Is it worth $8.75? Probably worth more. I thought it was worth $35 when I listed it, but obviously someone else didn't at this particular time. And that's another thing about postcards is they're definitely going to be long tail. Um, don't expect to move postcards like really fast unless you have really good views, really popular collectible things that states and things different like Route 66 or you know what I mean, like things that people always buy. A lot of these postcards, if you post them, are never going to sell, unfortunately. And it's one of those trial by error things. As you do this long enough, like I can go through a stack of postcards, 100 postcards, and pull out all the ones I'm very confident are going to sell at some point. There's a lot of junk postcards out there. I'm going to tell you that right now. If you're new to this and you want to get into this, it is not for the faint of heart. You basically got to learn a whole industry to really get good at this, and that's just going to take years of experience. There's a couple things going for this. It's real photo postcard. It's black and white. Um, it's got a tunnel. It's got a road, and it's got a location. So it's got a lot of good things going for that. This sold for $8.75. Next up is another road. As you can see here, here's another road and a car and a railroad too. So that's got another thing going for it. Anything with railroad, trains, tracks, bridges, roads, things like that actually do pretty well in the real photo postcard industry or the real photo postcard sales. Because a lot of this stuff does not look like this anymore. This is like a throwback. I will say a very interesting part about selling postcards, real quick, is like museums and like historical societies that buy these things because there's like every city has a historical society for their city, and museums want this stuff, and it's like a snapshot into history, into local history. And so you'll find that once you start getting into this is really deep, that certain like people look out for certain states and different institutions will actually purchase postcards from you, which is really fun. It's actually really cool to be a part of history in that way with postcards. Next up is a vintage United Air. This is a DC-8. This sold for $359 with a 40% off sale, and basically airplane aviation stuff does very well. It usually sells through, and like I said, I priced some of this stuff very high. I do research on every one of these postcards before I list them. I'll look to see, on WorthPoint, or I'll look to see on eBay if there's any of these, what they're selling for. Obviously, if I price this at $5.99, I did see that there was other sales or other listings, and they were probably in the $3 or $4 range. Usually, aircraft stuff, if it's rare, I'll post it higher, $15.99 or something like that. And there is a huge aviation niche, especially for TWA, and we'll get into. I think I have a TWA later in this video. Yeah, here we go. Right, here it is. So like aircraft aviation, this is Lockheed. This is a L-1049 Constellation. TWA is a Bolo brand for Transworld Airlines is a Bolo brand for aviation. I want to say avionics. That was the word I was looking for. Aviation stuff. Anything Transworld does very well. Um, Especially sometimes when they're posted and it's like, the correspondence matters. And this one happens to be brand new. And one of the things that I really like about postcards is the fact that like they don't have to be in mint condition like baseball cards. There's people I've I've told this story in the past. I sold like a Chinese postcard that was like had like a it looked like a rodent like bit the corner off of it or something, like something bit it. And it still sold for like $20 and it had a bite out of it. So it's like, it's funny that postcards, some of them depending on, a lot of factors, not every postcard that has a bite out of it's going to go for 15 bucks, but this one particularly did. But anyways, aviation stuff is definitely postcards to look out for. Next up is a real photo postcard of Vancouver Island. This is a lake view. This one has a lot of really cool stuff going for it. Of course, lakes. Um, United States postcards usually do a little bit better than international, with the exception of China and Japan. So Canada stuff, England, that kind of stuff for real photo postcards doesn't do quite well. The thing that's really only going for this postcard is obviously the car. There's a whole sub niche of collectors that just collect real photo postcards of old cars, and this rings all the bells. Now I remember listing this postcard for probably like 35 bucks when I first listed it, and then I brought the price down. It eventually sold for $9.99, as you can see, which is actually a really good deal for this postcard. I probably paid like 25 cents or 50 cents for this thing. And, like I said, it's got a lot going for it and it should have went for more. As a matter of fact, I've been selling postcards pretty consistently for 2 years. And I will say like the market, in my opinion, has softened up a lot. So I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know if it's, the situation going on in the world right now. People are more, saving their money, but I mean, it's in other areas, people are spending their money. So I don't know if that's, has a lot to do with it, but I will say as a observer of postcards in the last 2 years, I will say the market seems to be softening up in some areas. And, there are some other areas that are just exploding. Also like China and Houston, Texas, and just stuff like that. Next up is this postcard of New York. This is downtown Syracuse. This is an aerial view, and it's got a lot of great stuff going for it. Not for one, it's a vintage card. It's an aerial view of sorts. It's a street view of old cars, of old buildings, and this kind of stuff does very well, especially in the linen category. The linen postcards. And we'll talk about linen postcards just a little bit in the future of this video, so definitely stay tuned. We'll talk about that. But anyways, this is a really cool downtown view. It's got rounded corners, and as you can see, it hasn't been used, and it's in really good condition, but that has nothing to do with the price or the value or anything. Um, it's just it's a really clean postcard. As a matter of fact, the rounded corners might have been punched out after the fact. A crafter could have rounded those corners, but that's like not a normal thing for like a chrome postcard. But anyways, it was sold for $5.99. Next up is this Disney one. This is one of the ones that sold for $1. I barely made anything on this. You got to think like when you're selling postcards, the stamp cost about 50 cents. You could buy them in bulk to get them down to like 35 cents. And here's the thing for postcards. If you really want to cut corners, you have to buy all your supplies in bulk, like, 1,000 stamps at a time, or like 1,000 envelopes at a time, and stuff like that. So you could technically sell postcards for $1 all day long and, still make, some money if you do it in volume. This one just happened to be like a blowout. Like one day I just put my whole store at 75% off and just let it ride for like maybe like 48 hours. And so that was that. Anyways, with Disney postcards, always look in the corner. They have like this kind of code, and you can use that code to look up stuff online. And sometimes there's some Disney postcards that are worth a crazy amount of money. So just be aware of that. Sometimes people, the hardest part is when, there's a stamp over that and it's got writing on it. You'll just have to look it up by what's going on in the picture. As you can see here, we got Mickey and Goofy and the dog thing and whatever. Next up, we have a linen postcard from 1939, the World's Fair. Linen postcards have softened up, in my view, in the last few years. Don't get too excited when you see linen postcards. And if you don't know what a linen postcard is, it's basically like the type of paper it's printed on. It's kind of got like a fabricy kind of, it's still solid like a postcard, but it's got like this, I can't, like, it almost feels like woven threads in it. And you'd have to actually have one in your hand to know exactly what I'm talking about, but you can kind of see the woven threads in this kind of picture right here. Linen postcards, usually the stuff that does well is like aerial views and kind of like street views and things like that. And this sold for $1.49. And I can't tell you, I can't calculate exactly how much profit, because like eBay takes like 13%, with PayPal. And then the stamp costs 50 cents, and then like the little envelope costs like 10 cents. So like I probably made like 75 cents from this thing. But anyways, I'm just saying that linen postcards aren't as great as you might think. There are some linen postcards that do well, but they're very few and far between right now in the industry, in the genre. It comes every postcard's going to come down to the subject matter. And the 1939 New York World's Fair, there are some types of views for the different buildings that do okay, but for the most part, all these linen ones that I've had from the 1939 World Fair have sat for a while, but they've been trickling out with the sales. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll do another one next month. So if you're into postcards, definitely go down there, click the subscribe button. I hope this video was informational, if any way. And if it was, please leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. Let me know also like some criticisms, like what do you want to hear more of? What do you want to see more of? I haven't sold like high-end postcards this month. I'm just basically showing you what's sold, so really not much. I mean, I have probably like a couple dozen other sales that I didn't show, but this is basically just like stuff that I can share to give you sort of knowledge of what I'm doing and what you could be doing if you're into postcards. Anyways, I'm Chris, Thrift Shop Hustler. We'll see you next time. Take care.